The Bill Simmons Podcast, presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Here's what we're going to talk about.
Ooh.
We have a fun gimmick for today. We have the NBA draft coming on Thursday. These are our guys, our three guys that are with me right now. They've studied this draft. They absorbed it. They've looked at it. They have opinions. They've shifted their opinions. So I'm going to pretend I am the GM for each of the first 15 teams. And Kyle and KOC and Tjarks are my war room. And we're going to go pick by pick. I'm going to impersonate the GM, which is going to be really fun when we get to David Griffin. I'm just telling you guys now. I'm going to be the GM. I'm going to ask you guys for your takes, and then I'm going to make my decision. I might ask you a couple questions as well. So we're going to start here. The Pistons are on the clock at number 1. I am running the Pistons. This is great.
So are you going to take on the personality traits, like full on impersonate?
Only a couple times. Yeah,
okay.
only a couple times. Yeah, for the most part, I'm going to be me as the GM for a day. So the Pistons, I got to say, as you know, I was a little on the fence with Cade Cunningham as the surefire guaranteed number 1. I read this Mike Schmitz article. Did you guys read that on ESPN where he had YouTube clips of the 11 moves that Cade had that he thought were transferable in the NBA? And I watched each move. And by the end of it, I was like, all right, I kind of like it. I might be more in than I thought, even with the, I still think Evan Mobley is going to be a great player. But KOC, let's start with you.
Well, I
Cade
mean,
is the guy. You haven't wavered, right?
Sure, I haven't wavered there. I think you can love both. It's okay to love both Evan Mobley and Cade Cunningham. An argument for Cade Cunningham is not an argument against Evan Mobley. And with Cade Cunningham here, he checks all the boxes as a shot creator. Like, where do you want to spend your money and invest your money in a potential max contract player in 4 years when his rookie deal is up? I want him in a guy that can run my offense, who can also be multi-positional on defense, who can play make, who can shoot off the dribble, get to the basket, and be a leader. Cade Cunningham checks all of those boxes.
And he can play with your guy, your hero, Killian Hayes?
Yes, my hero, Killian Hayes.
They can play together?
Who nobody should give up on yet after his great defensive rookie season, solid playmaking season. He just needs to figure out how to score. And Cade could help.
Okay. Kyle, you're on board with that? We're taking Cade at 1 here?
Yeah, I mean, I've been a Cade guy for quite a while now. I mean, I think that he has an extremely high floor. I mean, I'm not as sure about him being like balls to the wall, like superstar offensively in terms of like carrying the scoring load for a team. But I think he absolutely is the type of player that can level up an offense because, you know, we're the Detroit Pistons. Cade fits with our infrastructure and the roster that we have now. And I think he's going to make the pieces that he accomplishes 2 things. I think he's the best player on the board, number 1, but he also is going to make all the players that we have better instantly. I think he's going to be a good player next year and make the Pistons roster better in the short term.
So Schmidt said he made a case that of basically the last 12 years of overall number 1 picks, Cade has a chance to be the 3rd best guy. And it was interesting to see the list of the picks, right? Zion and Anthony Davis, I think, were surefire. We knew they were going to be great. Tjarks, he's not on that list, but where do you have him? Like a level below, like a multi-time all-star? Is he an all-NBA guy for you? What's the ceiling for him?
I think so. I mean, I think there are 2 legit franchise players in this draft. It's Cade and Mobley. Let me give the Mobley pitch, though, for one.
Let's hear it.
He should go. Okay. Number 1. So the last 2 championships, Anthony Davis and Giannis. So I think the way the league is moving, if you can have a 7-footer who can protect the rim, get his own shot, guard the pick and roll, and guard wings and space in the perimeter, those are the most valuable players where the league is moving. And that's Evan Mobley. Mobley gives you a chance to have that kind of elite 7-footer. Plus, he's a better passer than both those guys. I'd say he has a higher feel for the game than AD and Giannis. And I think the biggest thing with Mobley right now is he's skinny. Remember all those pictures of Giannis in the finals? They're like, look how much he's grown. Yes, an athletic 7-footer will add weight as he gets older. That's not like super controversial. Like, to me, Evan Mobley is going to be the best player in this draft.
Yeah, it's almost like Bosh should be the one they're looking at for what Bosh looked like when he came into the league versus what he looked like, year 4 in Miami. All right, so let me ask you, because there's a couple teams I want to call before I make this pick. I personally like Mobley the most in this draft. I know it's not the perfect, I know Cade's a safer pick. Cade wants to be in Detroit. There's something to that. Detroit hasn't exactly been lights out the last 12 years, and he wants to go there, and he seems like he's embraced it. I'm calling Houston just out of curiosity to see if they want to flip picks with me. What else am I getting? KOC, what else am I getting when I call Houston?
I mean, you're trying to get an additional unprotected first-round pick at the least. And like, this is another reason to take Cade too. If you take Cade Cunningham, suddenly you do have the leverage to say, okay, Houston, we got him. What are you going to give? Give it all up if you really want him that badly. So you're in a position if you take Cade to do that. So I don't know, at least one more unprotected first-round pick. But I'd want even more than that to move off of Cade Cunningham.
But if you were Houston, what would you give up for Cade?
What does Houston have that we want? That's what I'm saying, other than the pick.
Well, they have those Brooklyn picks, right? From the Harden trade.
It would be, just more draft equity that you would have.
Right.
Like in the same way that Oklahoma City, different circumstances, but having all those picks can come into play sometime down the line for moving up. And I think also the other side of it here for Detroit is what if, the name we haven't mentioned here is Jalen Green.
What if Houston's like, we're cool, we're going to get Green at 2?
Yes.
We're not interested in flipping picks. We're going to get a guard that we want anyway. So thanks anyway. Exactly. But now let's go to number 3.
And then in that case, if they're leapfrogging too, if Cleveland were to move up or something like that, then we're really talking here. The thing is, though, is for Detroit, let's say you really feel strongly about Jalen Green and you have him number 2 on your board. Like, none of us here are really arguing for Jalen Green, but there are people within the Pistons front office that really love Jalen Green. I heard he had an outstanding workout with the team recently. Just a terrific workout, showed off his athleticism, great interview. And then some of the people in the front office who were all in on Cade are like, well, it's at least worth thinking about Jalen Green. So, we'll see what happens on Thursday night. I'd be shocked if they don't take Cade Cunningham. And he should be our pick here. But
okay,
Jalen
my
Green
question for you.
I got to consider.
KOC, if you were Houston, how much would you give up for Cade to go from 2 to 1?
I'd give up multiple future picks because you have so many. Give a Brooklyn pick, give one of your own picks maybe.
So unprotected next year, maybe Kevin Porter too.
Sure. I'm not going overboard though.
I've actually done my homework now. It seems like there's 3 guys that you're feeling really good about. And I don't know if I'm trading up for any of the 3 because I think 5 years from now, you can make a case for any of the 3. This isn't Anthony Davis in 2012. I think you can make a better case to go backwards and still get one of the 3 at the 3 pick. And, the caveat with Cleveland is to have these 2 guards. They have the Sexton situation, which is so weird. He's in all these trade rumors. I don't even know why you would give up real assets for him when you have to pay him. And we've never seen him do really anything well. Then the Garland thing, it just looks like the way it's going to play out is they would get Mobley. Great for them. But if I'm Detroit and I could move backwards and try to dangle Cade and see if that's something. Look, this is all masturbatory because we know how this is going to go. It's going to go Cunningham 1, it's going to go Green 2, and it's going to go Mobley 3. And we'll get to what Cleveland's going to do in a second. So if I'm staying with this pick, Tjarks, I'm not taking Mobley here, right? I have to take Cade, or you want me to take Mobley?
I would take Mobley. I don't care. Like, take the best player. Don't overthink this. And if
Can
you
I
think
ask
you're the
Tjarks
best
a
player,
question?
just go for it. Yeah.
What do you think Mobley's like implied mode of like elite offense is for him to like leap to be like to move to the front of this conversation? What do you think in the NBA? Like you mentioned Giannis, transition, getting to the rim, things like that. He's not as twitchy and like as fast as Giannis. He moves really well. I'm just curious, like what you think.
I think
Mobley's
he can
main
initiate
mode of
offense. He could straight up in 3 or 4 years have the ball at the free throw line and go to the rim and make the pass or the shot. I think that's coming for him.
I'm not taking Mobley at 1 when I can get him at 2 or 3. So if he's my guy, I'm not taking him 1. I'm going backwards. And I don't think Houston would be interested. So then I would have to try to entice Cleveland. Or the other option is if OKC can go from 6 to 3, get to 3, and then move up again from 3 to 1. They basically have to make 2 trades. KOC, I know you talked about this possibility, but what does it take for them to go from 6 to 3?
Probably quite a bit. Into that top 4, that's kind of the threshold. Most people consider the top 4, consensus top 4 with Jalen Green, Jalen Suggs, and of course we talked about Evan Mobley and Cunningham. So there's, multiple first-round draft picks there. But with that said, the price in past years, we've seen the Luka, Trey deal, Tatum, Fultz. typically to move into the top 5, the price is 1 extra first-round draft pick. I would expect with the nature of this draft, it would be 1 plus. So maybe
Kyle,
2.
Kyle, should that change? Because the price for a superstar has basically doubled to tripled depending on who we're talking about with picks, right? But as KOC said, it's like I can get Luka for Cam Reddish and Trae Young, basically. I can move up a couple spots and I'm giving up 1 pick. That's it. If you're OKC, why wouldn't you give up? You give up 2 firsts to go from 6 to 3, and then you give up another unprotected first to go from 3 to 1. And plus, like, they have those Clipper picks that are getting tastier by the day. You have Kawhi's not even playing next year. Who knows what's going to happen with him in free agency? And they're the Clippers. They're jinx. They should have a black cat at midcourt. I just feel like you at least have to kick the tires with OKC as a 2-part thing based on this whole what is a guy actually worth now? Because it's 200 cents on the dollar for anybody who has a chance to be a top 20 guy. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I guess it just comes down to, I don't know that there's, as much as I like these guys at the top, Tjarks and I were having this conversation the other day that, like, I think it was Tjarks, but as much as I like these guys, all 3 of them are like high floor. Like, I don't know that they're hitting like tippy top, like I would reset my whole franchise for. Maybe. Like, I don't know how much they would like mobilize me to give up. But I guess if those picks that you were talking about, if I want to just bundle a bunch of those that I'm sure aren't going to really be, context changing kind of picks for me, I would consider kicking the tires on it for if I'm OKC. I guess you just start thinking about what do they have that's really valuable that would really move the needle. I mean, would you rather have Cade or would you rather have Shea? Like compare like Shea against these guys.
Would you rather have both?
Both.
Could that be,
if you
with,
could pull it off? Yeah. I guess that's the question.
with KOC's guy Poku, the new big 3.
I think going back
Don't
to what
forget
Bill
Dort.
said,
Don't forget Dort.
And
Bill.
Dort, yeah, big 4.
if James Harden is worth 7 first-round picks, why shouldn't Cade Mobley be worth 4, right? Just half as much. If Paul George is worth 6 first-round picks, then 3 to 4 picks to me seems not unreasonable for a top 2 prospect.
This happens in football sometimes where we think we know who 1 and 2 is, and then the draft really starts at 3. And you saw it this year where the Niners paid a pretty premium price to move up to 3 and then have taken Trey Lance, who was the 3rd quarterback taken. But I do wonder, I think it's going to go Cunningham and then Green. And now Cleveland's at the clock at 3. And I do think a lot of people are going to make a run at that pick. Cleveland, they don't really know what their team is. I don't think they have a specific direction. And if you could overwhelm them with picks, we'll see. So here's what I'm going to do, Tjarks, because we didn't mention this. I'm a little worried about Mobley being represented by Wasserman and the whole Detroit piece of his. Arntelem used to be there. I don't know if they're happy with potentially going to the Pistons, whereas Cade Cunningham's like, I want to be a Piston. I'm down. I just watched the Bad Boys 30 for 33. Take me. I'm ready to go. So I think I'm going to be a coward and I'm going to take Cunningham. Also, it's going to be way more fun to have Mobley continue to go. All right. Rockets are up. I'm going to be their GM who managed to trade away James Harden for a bunch of picks that might not even be worth it. But at least now I can point to Jalen Green and I can say, I have this guy. He's super explosive. I'm Raphael Stone. I'm just trying to keep my job. I don't want to take Mobley over Green and then have Green be this exciting, electric guy. Green, he's going to take time. He's like a plant. You're going to have to water him for a couple of years. Nobody's going to know if he's good. He's going to help me be crappy this year too. I can potentially have another pick. Do they have their own first next year? I can't remember.
Next 2 years. Then they lose all of them. So they have a 2-year window to have their picks.
So I'm leaning toward Green because it helps me keep my job. Tjarks, you hate this. You want me to take Mobley.
I mean, you keep your job by drafting the best player. And if, to me, either way, whoever you draft this year at 2 is not going to help you improve your team that much. You're going to be bad. I wouldn't worry too much about that. I mean, Green's really good, but to me, I would say it's Cade and Mobley 1-2. To me, Green's closer to Jalen Suggs at 4 than Mobley at 2, if I'm looking at the big board.
What do you have, Kyle?
I think you could easily make that argument because of like two-way impact. The two-way impact thing is what I think the argument for separating Cade and Mobley above those guys. Like I do think that the Green Suggs thing is pretty close. And I agree too. I mean, could you play Mobley and Christian Wood this year started playing 5 for the first time, so we know he's interchangeable on that front. We know he can space some, could potentially play them together. But also, Mobley's a long-term play where you don't necessarily have to. Nothing is set for Houston. So, I mean, I would lean towards Mobley here just for that reason, even though, I've spent a lot of time lately watching Jalen Green. Like, I think that you're right. I think that he definitely is the type of player. He's not like a floor-raising type of player. He's going to take him a while to become like comfortable with like NBA-level playmaking and scoring and balancing those two things. He's skinny. Like, a lot of things got to play out. That's true for Mobley too. It's really close for me, but I lean Mobley here just because of the two-way impact. I think he could be defensively really special.
Kyle, you said how he's not a floor-raising player, but Jalen Green could be a ceiling-raising player. And I think that's the appeal with him. And I was talking with somebody last week who said to me that we're just speculating here. He's like, what if Houston's floating all the stuff out there about Cade Cunningham just because they don't want Detroit to know that they actually want Jalen Green and that they want him to be there at number 2? Just speculation there, just two people talking. But it's interesting because everything you hear about Jalen Green, like Kyle, I thought like your video you did about him was great. And I agree with like the take that Kyle had in the video about Jalen Green where you said likely, top 20, 25 player. That's what you hope for, right? That's a great player in the NBA today with how deep it is. But with Jalen Green, though, elite athleticism, elite work ethic, showed improvement over the course of the G League season as a defender, as a passer. And that's the type of progress you want to see. And I think with him, he can be down the line the type of guy who's your primary bucket getter. But I think the playmaking potential is pretty there too. So maybe he's not going to be a great defensive player like an Evan Mobley, but I do see Jalen Green as a guy that sometime down the line could be the real centerpiece of your offense as a high flyer who can shoot like hell from the perimeter. So I'm going with Jalen Green here, and Evan Mobley's tough to pass on, but I just love the fit in addition to just his elite upside.
Tjarks, on the ESPN Top 100 from 2020, the top recruits heading into college. Jalen Green was 1, Cade Cunningham was 2, Evan Mobley was 3. And then Kuminga, Scotty Barnes. So Green doesn't go to college, does like the traditional thing, actually impressed people in the G League. He's 6'5". He seems like he has all of the prototypes of what you would want as an elite 2 guard, a position that there's really not that many great 2 guards anymore. So he could immediately have a chance to be a top 3 guy at that position. And yet I want to take Mobley. You're with me on Mobley, right, Tjarks?
100%. Yeah, I mean, I think like Green is great, but 6'5" 2 guards who aren't primary ball handlers, who have to gain weight to be good defensively, like there are just fewer avenues to impact the game than a 7-footer who's already great defensively, who I think is a better passer than Green right now, who's got pretty good scoring instincts himself and near the basket. It's just like, if I'm going to gamble on a 6'5" guy versus a 7-foot guy, I'm going to go with the size, if the size has got speed and skill as well.
KOC, in your draft guide for Jalen Green, it said shades of Zach LaVine, career loser last time I checked. Haven't seen him in the playoffs a lot. Bradley Beal, like him as well, career losers. He got past the second round. And then
good early
Malik
years
Monk
with the Wizards.
Yeah, I say career loser in the most pleasant way possible. I'm just saying, like, he has not, whatever he does has not translated to Final Four. Whereas, like, I think about Mobley and I think about what I saw in the finals, and one of the biggest reasons the Bucks won is because when Chris Paul got the switch he wanted, and all of a sudden Giannis was on him. Giannis could actually be like, "Cool, you're not doing Chris Paul stuff against me because I'm Giannis." I don't know if Mobley can get there defensively, but I do think that's where the league has shifted, where you need one guy like that. And I just think he's going to be really good. If my reason not to take him is I have Christian Wood, that's not a good reason. So I have Mobley. I'm taking Mobley for the Rockets. I think it's the smartest pick, safest pick. I just think he's going to be really good. And I don't quite have the balls to take him first, but there you go. All right, so that leaves the Cavs, so we're now screwed. Here's another reason to take Mobley second with Houston, because if you're the Cavs, you're like, oh no, we thought we were getting Mobley. What? And then all these other teams were like, oh shit, we thought we were going to trade up to 3 and try to fleece Mobley from the Cavs. That's out the window as well. So now they're sitting there. They have just a bunch of guards and power forwards. It's one of the weirdest rosters in the league. Kevin Love's like, I've had the strained calf for 3 years, and and I have to leave Team USA to do more rehab on it. He's 32. It's like he's 45. I don't know what you're looking at if you're Cleveland, but I think you have to take Green, right? Is there anybody else here?
You have to take Green, and
Okay.
I think like you could still potentially trade the pick. Like there are teams that would be very, very happy to try to trade up and get Jalen Green. So you still have some trade leverage there if you're Cleveland, or you could also try to move up one spot with Houston too.
Is that 5 and 8 for 3 is not a realistic trade if Green is the guy, right? I need more from Orlando than 5 and 8
I would
for
think
3.
so. I would
Yeah.
if I was the Magic, I'd do that in the second. Wouldn't even think twice.
What else would be in that trade, Kyle? 5, 8, the rights to Markelle Fultz's autobiography.
Could you pry Chuma from them or somebody like that? I mean, yeah, I mean, I like that's an interesting
RJ
guy.
Hampton.
I mean, yeah,
Get him in
Hampton.
there.
He's already going to be
RJ
bouncing
Hampton.
around that much.
They should just take Green.
Yeah,
So-
I think they should.
So we're taking Green at 3. We're delighted. And I think Toronto, who we're about to get to, I do think Toronto was sniffing around trying to get up there because everyone's like, it's a top 4. It feels like it's a top 3 and then a slight infinitesimal drop off and then Suggs in his own kind of little mini tear because I don't think he's on the level of the other. I really like Suggs, but I don't feel like he's on the level. All right, so we have the Cavs. That was easy. Who is the Cavs GM right now? I can't remember.
Kobe Altman.
Oh, rough stretch for Kobe.
And by
There's
the way,
been some hard to believe he's still the GM. There's been some bad moves.
and by the way, if Mobley isn't there at 3, I'd be very happy to try to trade down with OKC at 6. I think if you're Cleveland, like you love Jalen Green, you might love Jalen Suggs, but because you already have the Colin Sexton, Darius Garland problem there, moving down to 6, if you really want to guard there, you can still get like a James Bouknight, and there's a heck of a lot of other wings, forwards that you can get at that spot, in addition to a bunch of other draft capital. So if no Mobley for Cleveland, which would be a shame, because Allen, Mobley, Okoro front court would be really fun to watch. I'd love to watch that. It would be a shame if we don't get to see it. But trying to trade down, to me, would be the best for Cleveland there. And we'll see what happens, though. We'll see.
If I'm Cleveland, the only guys I care about on this roster are Garland and Okoro.
Not Allen.
Well, and trying to re-sign Allen. He's restricted, right? I do think they have to be worried somebody's going to come in off the top rope for him. But I don't know. If I could end up with basically Garland, Okoro, and Green, and then I'll figure out the rest. It's like, do I trade Larry Nance? What do I do with Sexton? I'm still dubious that there are these teams trying to pursue Sexton, but we'll see. Anyway,
Well,
Kobe
like
Altman. Wow.
Green
Can't
does
believe
everything.
Can't believe I still have this job, says Kobe Altman. That's me. Go ahead, Kyle.
I was just gonna say Green does everything that Sexton does, but he's bigger and more athletic. I mean, and he probably has more defensive upside, I would say too, depending on how you want to look
For
at it.
sure.
So, I think, yeah, I mean, if you can get him, you get him, I think, and you just deal with the problems that come with that. So.
Tjarks, make the case for Sexton really fast, just in general.
Uh-oh.
I'm not a big Sexton guy. I mean, he gets buckets.
Okay.
He'll be in the league a long time getting buckets.
Doesn't seem like there's a lot of big Sexton guys out there. It's like when we try to find the Kuminga guys later. It's going to be hard. It's going to be tough to.
I guess
Find
like
the high for
Sexton in New York would be good, right? Because the Knicks have Julius Randle to run point. Sexton could guard point guard, just take shots constantly. That'd be fine. Something like that would make sense for him.
I like Sexton. I think he's a pretty good player. I mean, he averaged 24 points. He's improved his efficiency on a higher volume and each of his 3 years in the NBA, improved as a passer. I mean, I think like maybe he's doing too much for what you want from him, but that's because the Cleveland Cavaliers needed points. If you have him in a situation where you only need 17 points from Sexton, I think he can be a really, really good player for you, like a high-end dynamic guard off the bench, or put him with like a bigger guard in the backcourt as a starter. I think Colin Sexton could be a really valuable player in a winning situation.
Yeah, his stock has dropped too far, it feels like, because he's only 22. He's in a horrible situation, basically,
22.
for his entire career, And I do think he plays hard. Like, if you're just judging it by, does this guy give a shit? I've never watched a Cavs game and thought that he was either mailing it in or it seemed like he had an attitude or stuff like that. It seemed like he was really trying on bad rosters. So maybe that is the type of guy you get. It does feel a little Thibodeau, Nixie, potentially. All right, number 4. I'm Toronto. I could just make it easy and take Jalen Suggs. I could get ambitious and dangle Siakam around, which I think is what they're doing. I guess my first question is, what is the price for Siakam with Golden State? Because I think that's the top 35 type of guy that they can get for some of their assets. But what is that? Is it Wiggins 7 and 14? Does Wiseman have to be in the trade? Is it just Wiggins and 7? What do you think it is, Kyle?
Do we think that Toronto would be interested in Wiseman would be a question? I don't know. That seems like
I would be.
You think
They
so?
did reportedly have interest in Jared Allen. So if they like another rim running big, maybe
They
they
need
would
a
like
center.
Wiseman.
They got nothing long term at the 5 spot, so it makes sense.
Yeah, I was curious about them maybe trying to make a run at Mobley because it kind of made sense. I mean, and one of these other big physical kind of defensive fours kind of makes sense for Toronto too with what they have. I mean, I don't know if I would want to. Are we sure Siakam's a top 35 player? Has that conversation changed any in the past year?
No, he's probably top 50 now. But I think a year ago you would have put him in there. His contract is awful. He's got, he's basically averaging $34 million a year in the next couple of years. So for the Warriors, it's basically they'd be flipping Wiggins for him.
But we've seen Siakam expand in like a strong structure, like a strong team, like a team that has like a good structure in place. Like it feels like maybe if you put him in that environment, he could help them out. I could see that happening for sure.
Jackie McMullen was pretty adamant that she thought he was one of the guys who got really affected by the bubble and the pandemic, all that stuff, and that he actually might be a better asset than maybe that was shown last year. I would not trade. If I were the Warriors, I would do Wiggins in 7. I would not include 14.
See, if
Otherwise,
I'm Toronto,
I would just keep Wiggins.
Toronto's like, Wiggins isn't a positive asset. Like, I want Wiseman and the 2 picks. Maybe I'll take Wiggins from you, but I'm not going to trade for Wiggins. That doesn't make any sense.
Are we sure Wiggins isn't a slightly
At that
positive
contract?
on-court asset? He was. I mean,
I
you
mean,
were
$35 million
positive.
a year?
Forget the money for 1 second, because Siakam's
You're an
making a lot
NBA team.
too.
It's important.
But
the money.
But Wiggins was a really terrific defensive player last season for the Warriors. He was terrific, borderline second team all defense. So like factor that in there. He's not a lost cause on that end. He's not a zero.
Well, there's only 2 more years on that deal too. And where's he from? Canada. That's fun. Come on, Tjarks.
You're
Canadian
paying me
guy?
to take his contract. I'm telling you that right now. Like, you're giving me assets to get that on my books.
Come on,
taking
Tjarks.
it
You don't
from
want Sexton? You don't want Wiggins? What's wrong with you? Yeah.
Wiggins is 31.5 next year and 33.6 the year after. I was trying to think, is there a way Toronto could get basically 7, 14 Wiggins, stay at 4, but then try to basically try to figure out how they could end up with Mobley and Suggs. It's like whatever they had to trade, where that's like the last 2 assets they'd have standing. I don't think it's possible though. I've tried to figure it out.
The 2 guys they actually want, it seems like, are Jalen Suggs and Scotty Barnes. And there's like some little, Josh Giddey rumblings. I don't think that's real for the 4 spot, but maybe if they were at 7 or 14, we're talking there. But like, how much are we factoring in Kyle Lowry's future with this decision at number 4? How much are we factoring in the very real Ben Simmons interest as well with the decision that's made there? Because if you want Ben Simmons, and if you're going for Ben Simmons with, young players and future picks or whatever, maybe you're not taking Scotty Barnes and instead you're going with Jalen Suggs. Like, so how much is that a consideration?
See,
for us here at the
KFC, I
4th
think
spot?
that's really important, because I think if you're Toronto, if you draft Suggs at 4, he's going to have positive value in a year, because he's going to be a winning player on a playoff team with 2-way ability. And you can say, here's your young star for a Ben Simmons. We've developed him. He's doing really well. He's like your SGA then all of a sudden, Suggs is. So to me, like, you draft Suggs and say, in a year, I can trade Suggs and picks for almost anybody, basically. That's what I'm thinking.
I think that's important because Suggs fits. He plugs and plays with Toronto's roster based on what I've looked at and thought about. I mean, he is going to be ready to play for them next year, in my opinion. Like, he's just ready. He's a smart, tough player, and I think he's going to be a 2-way player. And I agree. I agree with you, Tjarks. I think he's going to be a good asset in the near future.
He's very Raptorsy.
Mm-hmm.
My guess is they let Lowry go, and they just take Suggs, and they just anoint Suggs as the Lowry successor. I still haven't figured out what Lowry's price range is, Because people do this thing now where they just assume every team can sign everybody no matter what their cap situation. The Lakers is like, oh, they're going to get Chris Paul. It's like, how? There's no possible way they're going to get Chris Paul unless they talk somebody into taking Schroeder and, KCP or Kuzma. Like, it's just not realistic. With Lowry, the Knicks are the team that have the cap space for him. And I do think the Knicks are going to be heard from. The Chris Paul thing, there's been a lot of rumblings about, are we positive he's going back to Phoenix, stuff like that. So I just feel like Lowry's going to end up in the Knicks is my point, I guess. And they just replace him with Suggs. They're not going anywhere anyway. Suggs, Van Vliet, they keep Siakam. They try to sign a center. Would they have the cap? If Lowry left, I think, wouldn't they have the cap space to either try to get Jared Allen or try to trade for Miles Turner? Like, both of those things are possible, right? I think.
Yeah, if Toronto loses, a lot of their free agents and open up cap space, they could open up like over 20 million in cap. So it's complicated to get to that point, but they could theoretically create a lot of cap space.
Yeah, next year they have Siakam at 33. They got Van Vliet at 20, Anunoby at 16. So that's almost 70. Yeah, the way it's looking, I think they would have. I think somebody's going to make a run at Jared Allen. Maybe this is the year we see some restricted free agents actually switch teams.